Hello, everybody. Welcome to another AOP Tech Talk podcast. Today I have with us Mr. Scott Green, the famous. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
And today I think we're talking a little bit about ransomware.
Ransomware it is.
Gotcha. So what's the first thing we were talking a little bit earlier, and you said you Googled it and started to find out what this is. So what were the results from that Google search?
So what I did is lately I've been hearing a lot about ransomware, and I'm like, well, what is ransomware? What does it do? How does it affect a business or an individual? So when I Googled it, a few things popped, of course, quite a bit popped up, but a few things that kind of got my attention is the top 5 companies that's been breached or had personal or business data stolen from them. And just to give you a couple of examples, like Yahoo had over 3 billion files stolen, or 3 billion personal files stolen from them.
These are like email addresses and personal information?
Absolutely. And on Yahoo, you put in credit card information, addresses, personal addresses, stuff like that. So a breach is, a violation of your personal rights.
Yep,
you know,
absolutely.
And a couple of the other ones that come up was like First American Financial Corp, 885 million records breached. Facebook, 550 million. The list goes on and on. And at the bottom, it actually said, this is just the companies that are willing to tell us. You know, I know they may be required by law to tell us, but how many small businesses, 200 employees or less, get breached annually?
That list may only be 5% of the results.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So
now they get all of this information from these big companies, and they're using these email addresses to send out fake emails with ransomware attached to them?
Yeah. It said one of the main culprits in ransomware today is phishing. And I was like, well, what's phishing? You know, I fish, but I go out my boat and I fish. But what is ransomware or malware phishing? And it was just really interesting. I know you're the tech guy here, so you can answer that for sure.
So a phishing email is disguised as a real email. So it's going to look like it's coming from a personal friend or someone you know, and it's going to look like they maybe shared a document with you, or they said, hey, look at this attachment. It's going to be some kind of lure to get you to bite. And when you click on that one, I know the last one I seen was somebody shared a Google file with me, right? So if you click on it, it's going to ask you for your credentials, your email and your password. Well, as soon as you click send, you're not going to see anything, but you just send off your email and password to this person who's building these programs or ransomware. And now he has access to all my emails, all my email accounts, my addresses, contact list, all that.
Wow, that's interesting. So what gets me on stuff like this is that how an individual can affect a company and how a company can affect an individual. We're all in this together. Mm-hmm. You know, I may be a small family of 4 or 5 people, but by me going to work tomorrow and checking my personal email and clicking on a ransomware, I can potentially affect the company I work for.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's incredible.
That
Touch on that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so and we talked about this a little while earlier on how these people will target the larger companies because so many other people or vendors do business with them. So say I get company X and they have 1,000 employees. Well, now those 2,000 or 3,000 vendors that deal with them, emails get sent out to those companies. And now that ransomware goes from one company to 2,000 companies, and then someone takes it home, and then it's just if anything touches, kind of like a virus.
Right.
It spreads the more and more it touches.
That's just incredible. You know, with that being said, now let's touch base a little bit on ransomware. What is ransomware, you know, and how does it affect a business?
So ransomware is just like a kidnapping in the human world. So they're going to kidnap your data and hold it hostage for said ransom. And this is where they want $1,000 in Bitcoin sent to this address, and I'll give you the key to get your data back.
Wow. And I remember sometime back on the news, Baltimore, the city of Baltimore was hacked by ransomware, mm-hmm. and it affected their entire city. and they actually the council voted to spend $6 million and pay the ransomer for their encrypted code to get their data back. And to date, I think it's been over $20 million that they've spent, and they're still retrieving data and trying to recoup their records.
Back. That's what I'm curious about, because I've heard multiple people that pay that ransom and don't get anything back. And so I'm curious to see how many people actually pay that ransom and how many people pay that ransom and are able to get all of their data.
Yeah. And I think unless you're a public entity, if you're a private company, they're too embarrassed. They're not going to come out and say, yeah, we just got totally ripped off. They wiped out our bank account. We paid them all this money and we got no data back. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to our customers, sending a letter out to you saying, hey, look, we're sorry we've been breached. It is what it is. What can we do? Yeah. So now that we know what ransomware is, as a company, AOP, what do we offer to our customers to help protect them?
So I think you have to take a multi-step process, because it's going to take, not necessarily a team of people, but a team of planning or a plan to protect this. So one, you have data. Okay, here's my bucket of data.
Right.
One, I always want to make sure I have a copy of that data. And it's just like people used to put things in a big safe and the combination lock in their closet. Well, we need to do that with data, not physically in a safe, but we need to make sure we have a copy that's tested, it works, and it's not 4 years old.
Right.
I would say that's the first step, is just to make sure you got a copy. Second is how to protect that. Let's build a fence around this data and only let the people who need access to it access it. And then it's just the process of due diligence. It's keeping those two things up, because somebody's going to learn how to jump over that fence. So I need to rebuild it on the left side to make it a little bit stronger. I need to make sure this backup is not 4 years old, but 1 day old, and it's tested. So it's the due diligence would be at the third part.
That's very interesting, So to run through a scenario as a business owner, let's say I have 50 employees and I do get hacked and my data is encrypted. I can't use it. If I've got a preventive measure in place, I can just go back to the good data and start over again from
Absolutely.
that?
Yep.
Okay.
We had, so as a managed company, we deal with the most vulnerable parts of a network, and that's the people. And that goes back to training. So any IT company that says, we're future proof, we're 100% proof on getting ransomware, it's false. So we had one person download, they get emails like normal. She clicked on the file and it corrupted her computer. Well, to us, being that we do so much proactive work in the background, we're taking, continuous backups and we're constantly testing these things. To us, it's not as dramatic.
Right.
So we were able just to take her data and the information that was affected and just completely wipe it off the network. And then we just go to the backup that we constantly test, take that one and move it right back into production. And we can say, okay, try that, try whatever you were doing again. And she double clicks and kept going on like normal, not realizing what had just happened.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And so without that backup,
they literally would have lost their customer database.
Wow, yeah. That's interesting, yeah.
And it was in they were a legal office, and that ransomware, it will spread to whatever that user has access to. Well, she had access to the customer database because she works in the software. So it got that one. That's everything. That's all of your legal history, all the filings, everything was in that database.
Wow. Well, that brings up a good point, because you said that all the files that she had or he had access to. So can you go through and do a profile of each individual and say, well, really, you don't need access to all the data. You only need access to A, B, and C.
Absolutely. Yep.
And lock everything else down. So worst case scenario, we're not breaching the entire database, just certain little parts that each individual has use of.
Definitely. And I would definitely recommend that one. And we talked about that one in a previous one. When people get a network, like I take a server out of the box and set it up, it's 1% ready. It's up to the business or your IT department to finish that other 99%. And part of that is starting to isolate users and create profiles, and this group only has access to this data. And you start to give people the least amount of access they need to complete their job. Like you said, not everyone needs accounting information.
Right.
The service department just needs service tickets. We'll just give them access to that and leave the rest of the company out of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So, what else can we do to prevent, cyber attacks on a business?
The way we dissect some of these things, when somebody gets attacked or a phish email or something like this, we always want, we can actually take that data and simulate it in a virtual world and see what happens.
Right.
And what we found is some of them always phone home. So this program runs and it's going to go right back to where it started to go grab a little bit more information. And that's how they stay small in size. And so when we can learn where it communicates to, I can start to block that phone home, not only on that one customer, but all 1,000 other ones that we help.
Oh, wow. Yeah, like vertical all
Yep.
the way across the board from all the businesses. You learn from the most vulnerable it's happened to and apply them to all the customers. Yeah,
And so
that's awesome.
We'll have customers, they've never gotten one, but they have all these preventative measures to prevent one from ever working. And that may be coming from another customer or something, but it's the way our company can dissect this data and learn, we reverse engineer them, and see that helps us a lot.
Right. Now, one other question that I have versus housing emails. Everybody's got emails today in businesses, and it seemed like a lot of this ransomware and malware and stuff initially go through an email. Because, we're constantly coming to work, just fielding through all of our emails, seeing what's important, what's not, and we have so many attachments. Just to give you an example, the majority of our vendors today email all their invoicing. So all day we receive invoicing via email with attachments that we constantly open. What would be the difference with housing, or is it safer to house email in-house, or is it safer to house email somewhere else where if I do click on a ransomware or something, it stays where it was housed? Is that?
I think it would go back to that thing. It's a multi-step or multi-part answer. So one, I would definitely trust, if I didn't house data or email in-house, I would definitely want a trusted provider that does house it. The second,
that would be like Google or somebody like that.
Office 365, Gmail, AOP mail, something like that. That way, they have a team of people that protect these things. The other one is implementing all of the rights and securities according on those services, whether it's in-house. And what I mean by that is, if you get my email and you try to email my entire contact list within 5 minutes, it's just going to say, nope, ain't happening. You can send 5 emails per hour because you've never sent 6 per hour in the entire history of having this email address. So I'll just set your limit. And that goes to, you tighten security to where I function normal. The security's right above me and I never hit that ceiling because that's not my normal. So it's things like setting up all of those extra features to prevent those things. It would be the second part. So I don't know if it really matters if you house it inside or in a provider. Just make sure that you secure however it transmits.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, that's a really cool feature that you have, that where you take a profile from an individual and you secure it according to that profile. If you only send out 6 emails an hour, that's your limit.
Yep.
So if ransomware does come through, the most I can grab will be 6 emails in 1 hour. And by then I would know something's going on. Bam.
Yep.
Notify them 6 people. Hey, look, just don't open this email.
It shrinks that pool of vulnerability.
Right.
It's because not everybody's hack proof or phish proof, or nothing's 100%. So the smaller and smaller I can make that pool, the closer to 100% I can get.
Interesting. Yeah, that's all great points. Yeah.
And that's one thing, you just learn what people's know. Like my route to work, I leave my house and come to work on the same road every single day. So the rest of the roads around me could disappear and nothing, I never even noticed, because that's not my normal. And that's what people have to take that mentality of networking. You have to go that extra 99% to complete setting up your network and to complete your security and complete these things to prevent these things from hopefully happening.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. That's some really good points you bring out on securing like that. It makes me feel a lot better, because at first I was like, yeah, everybody's acceptable to hacking, which they are, but with all these preventive measures in place, it really limits them.
Mm-hmm. And that goes back, we were talking earlier about that city that got the ransomware. And you were saying it not only got the city, like the main office of the city, but the water department and the police department, the fire department. It's just going to constantly spread. And now, okay, I work at the police department, and now all my data gets encrypted, but I'm just a vendor of the police department. So now I go back to work, and now that ransomware gets back on my network. So it's just going to constantly spread. So we're not only protecting our company data and our customers' data, but anyone who does business with those people.
Right. Yeah. It's endless. I mean, it just keeps going. We're all in this together, regardless of what our position or our place is.
Yep. It's a big cat and mouse game.
Yeah. Wow, that's some really good points. I mean, you answered a lot of the questions that we had. And now I kind of know what ransomware is, and what companies do to prevent it.
Yep. It's an interesting world. Security's fun.
Security's fun, never ending. Yep.
That's it. Any more?
That'll cover it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to another AOP podcast. Hope to see you next week, and let's learn some more. Thanks,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Yep. Thank you.